to the Reconnection Club podcast, the show that helps parents heal troubled relationships with their adult sons and daughters. I'm your host, psychotherapist Tina Gilbertson. Each week, I'll offer you compassion, clarity, and personal development tips designed to help you reconnect, not only with your child, but with yourself. Now let's get started. Estrangement from your adult child is a waiting game. Time passes. It steals weeks and months and sometimes years from your relationship. Since that thought is pretty hard to tolerate, lots of parents focus on action. What should I do next? Is one of the questions I hear most often in my role as a therapist and estrangement consultant. From what I've witnessed in my work, lots of parents are wondering when to reach out to their child again, what to say when they do, what to do if their child doesn't respond, how to respond to their child if they do get a response, and so on and so on. It's a treadmill of events and plans, and above all, action. But often the answer to the question of what to do right now is nothing. But there hasn't been any movement yet, you might say. What can I do to make progress? As a roundabout way of addressing that question, I'll tell you about a plant I used to have in our dining room. This was a plant that had nice, striped green, shiny leaves and was very healthy and quite attractive. But as it grew, the stem got taller, but the leaves didn't get any fuller. So it started to look scraggly and kind of like a Charlie Brown plant. It was skinny and weird, and it just became less and less attractive. Well, I'm not a gardener, and I know very little about plants, but I had heard that if you cut something back, it would grow back even fuller than before. So I took a leap of faith and a pair of shears, and I cut it off about halfway up the stem, leaving just this stick, basically, standing up in a pot of soil. Well, as soon as I'd cut the top off, I was gripped by panic. I was like, what have I done? Here were all these beautiful green leaves in my hand, and they were going into the trash. And all that was left was this stem sticking up in a pot of dirt. I thought maybe I'd killed this poor plant. Well, I had no choice but to wait and see if it might still be alive and possibly grow again. For weeks and weeks, I walked by that sorry-looking stem in the pot, and I often wondered if I should just toss it out because clearly nothing was happening. And this thing was ugly. It was just a stick. It had no leaves on it. But I waited. I think I might have watered it occasionally, feeling stupid, of course, because it was probably dead anyway. But I thought, if it's dead, then it should disintegrate or something. But as you might anticipate, one day, as I was passing this little thing, I noticed something green near the top of the stick. And I looked more closely, and sure enough, there was not one, but two little buds that had formed and were starting to sprout. After all those weeks of waiting, despairing, not seeing any progress whatsoever and thinking it was over, it was like a miracle to me that this thing was actually growing. Although I had had no way to know it, under the surface, something productive had been happening all along. I just couldn't see it. That plant grew 2 bunches of shiny, bushy green leaves, and it ended up looking very attractive. If I'd given up prematurely, I never would have seen what the plant could do if I'd just let nature take its course. Even when you don't see any movement in your relationship with your child, even if all you get is silence week after week, month after month, it doesn't mean that nothing is changing. There are so many forces acting on both you and your child. Neither of you could stay the same if you wanted to, which means the relationship you share today is not the same as it will be tomorrow. Imagine if I had dug up that plant every day to see what might be going on. I would have disrupted what might have been a period of hibernation. Remember, I don't know anything about plants, but I certainly would have disrupted the subsequent growth spurt that eventually happened. It might not have been possible if I had messed with it. Taking action in a situation that doesn't seem to be moving is not only unnecessary, but it can potentially do damage. try on the belief that not doing anything is doing something. Deciding not to continue reaching out to an adult child who's requested space is doing something. It's honoring that request. That's productive. Even though you're sitting on your hands, essentially, you're contributing to the prospect of eventual re-engagement. I helped my plant regrow simply by not disturbing its efforts. In many cases, estranged parents can help their relationship with their child heal by giving it room to breathe, especially if you've got reason to believe that room would be appreciated. Now, I've got a book coming out a few weeks from when this podcast is scheduled to air, and it's full of actions that parents can take to repair the relationship with their adult child. However, what I hope most readers will actually do is to read the entire book without lifting a finger, just taking in the information and letting it marinate for a while before doing anything. The book is called Reconnecting with Your Estranged Adult Child, but the secret purpose of the book is really to help parents reconnect with themselves first, so that you're better equipped and better positioned to reconnect with your child or children. I encourage you to get a copy of the book when it comes out. I'll link to it in the show notes, but plan to just read it through and let it wash over you without doing anything right away. And in the meantime, practice the art of doing less. Have faith that you are not the only force in the universe that can make things happen. Know that progress is not always visible on the outside, that change can happen slowly and quietly and without your knowledge, let alone your participation. Your friends or your therapist may already have suggested that you find a way to distract yourself from the estrangement, and you might have found that suggestion frustrating because it doesn't offer a solution. But not every day is a solution day. Some days are just for waiting. If you've tried to take action at the wrong time, or if your actions have only made the situation worse, here's a little rhyme I made up for you that you can use like a mantra to calm your impulses. When taking action makes a mess, practice the art of doing less. That's how you cope when you've done what you can and you're not seeing any progress. Invest in the practice of allowing time to work on the situation. And while that's happening, you won't be doing anything wrong by turning your attention elsewhere. Until next time, remember that you are a loving, lovable, and still growing human being. So please take good care of yourself. Bye for now. If you've enjoyed this episode of the Reconnection Club podcast, I invite you to check out reconnectionclub.com. The Reconnection Club is for parents at any stage of estrangement from their adult, child, or children. So whether you've just realized there's trouble between you, you've been living with estrangement for years, or you're newly reconciled but still walking on eggshells, the Reconnection Club is your essential resource for information, support, and continued personal growth. With our courses and workshops, expert interviews, monthly Q&A calls, and a friendly, active community, the Reconnection Club is a wonderful place to be for anyone suffering the pain of estrangement from an adult, child, or children. So check it out at reconnectionclub.com.